Hey, good morning. It's Mark. I'm the Vice President for the Wayne County Amateur Radio Club. And we're on a little tour here for you, but one of our main antennas is what you're looking at right now, 50 feet up, and it's actually U.S. Army surplus, this tower. Yeah, they call them the rocket launcher because of the way they're stored, but 50 feet, and it's a tri-band beam. It means it can work 3 different amateur radio bands at the same time. We make use of all 3 of those by bringing the something down at the bottom called a triplexer and split it off into 3 different radio stations. So here we have leftovers from dinner last night, breakfast soon, but this is the camp kitchen. And Lee, KC3LEE, our expert restaurateur and chef, will be here shortly doing breakfast.
Alpha Romeo Oscar W3ARO field CQ contest W3ARO Whiskey 3 Alpha Romeo Oscar field A. CQ field A, CQ field A, CQ contest W3ARO. CQ contest Whiskey 3 Alpha Romeo Oscar W3ARO. Papa Alpha. QSL, good luck at the contest, W3ARO.
So this antenna is called an off-center fed dipole, and the end of it you're looking at now is suspended from the top of the tower. It goes all the way back into the pine trees here. We put it up there with a thing that's like a potato gun, but it shoots antenna wire up for us. Well, it shoots a rope up, and then we haul the wire up with it, and had to get it into the woods and tie it off with a tree. This is a pretty common technique for putting up amateur radio and shortwave wire antennas temporarily, or some people even permanently do this at their houses. But that's an antenna that's capable of working the world. All right, this is a support designed by one of our members. He calls it the TLT. Stands for the Trailer Ladder Tower. And it's holding an antenna that's also an off-center dipole, but it's way longer than the one we just saw. This one is a total of 283 feet of wire from one end to the other, and we're about a third of the way into it. It heads off both directions from the top of the tower. And of course there are the ubiquitous generators you can hear in the background. Yeah, so the generators, we keep them minimized if we can, but because they're kind of noisy, but we do have to run emergency power. That's part of the emergency exercise. We do have a solar panel running on one of our stations, which we'll take a look at that as well.
Hey, I'm operating 20 meters in FT8 digital mode, and I'm working my way very early in the morning compared to normal propagation. My biggest problem is that this time of the morning I've got all this DX coming in from all over the world, and they're not in the contest, and I could certainly work them for my own home state and work better towards my DXCC.
So this station is working the very highest band we use, which is called 6 meters. And it's an interesting band because when it opens up, it goes all over the world a lot of the time. But when it shuts down, there's nothing there. So, Jim, you've had some success this morning with it, I think.
Most of it local, like New Jersey,
yeah,
Pennsylvania.
Yeah. So what we've got is a logging system to keep track of not only who we're talking to or who we spoke, or had contact with, but it also makes sure we don't do duplicates, which they don't count. If you get another station twice in a row in the same band, in the same mode, it doesn't count. So the logging system here is networked and helps us stay away from making duplicate contacts, and it kind of guides us through who is on what band where. So I can show the whole network display, and you can see our stations that are set up. There's next to us the station just came from 6 meters. There's the fellow who was in the tent at Pocono Bob, K0PB. W2CCN on 40 meters. This is station also right now is on 40, but a different mode with digital here. And some others that run through. And here it is. So this doesn't count in points with the field day, but any state or province, as it might be, that has a color in it means that we have worked one or more stations in that state or province. So you see Alaska, and here's Hawaii, and Hawaii's colored in. We've worked stations in Hawaii. In fact, the moment, right now, the only ones we haven't are, is this, yeah, that's North Dakota, I believe, yeah. And we haven't worked anyone yet in New Mexico, oddly enough. So, but everywhere else, well, we missed some in the Canadian provinces. But that's just a quick look at where we've been communicating from these stations. All right, so we call this, this is one of our digital mode stations, and it's running a very popular protocol in the amateur radio world called FT8. It's invented by a Nobel physics professor, Nobel Prize winner, K1JT, Joe Taylor, from Princeton, New Jersey. Excuse me, he's at Princeton University. And you can see the radio spectrum at the top. These are all, every one of those little waterfall drop segments is another radio station transmitting. There's about 1,200 of these all over North America during this event. On the left side are stations that are, this is what they're sending, and the date time group, their time difference, but the main thing is here they're saying CQ, meaning I'll talk to anybody who is doing field day, that's FD, and that's the call sign. What we look for is a station strong enough to be able to be called. So here's one, that's a good strong signal, that 4, and that's Canada. So I'm going to double click, and that will start my station transmitting to the station in Canada. And I'm going to get him up here. And I'm going to watch. If he responds to me, the station in Canada, it'll come back red. We'll see if he calls again, but it's the one is VE1 Alpha Oscar, VE1AO. And I just made my first strong call to him. We are W3ARO. But he'll come back and give me his information about how many stations they have set up at their site and what part of Canada he's in. So he's called us. That's our call. He's called Canada. He's saying, Roger, I hear you. I'm a station class 1F. MAR means I'm in the Canadian Maritimes. So I'm going to go over here and log the guy. He is VE1AO. He is a 1F. It picked up the fact he's in the Maritimes. I'll just press return, and he now gets added to this log. And these are all the other stations that are operating on our site now. And you can see where they've worked. The Maritimes in Canada, Kentucky, Iowa, Maryland, D.C., northern New Jersey, Ohio, Alabama, western Pennsylvania, and there's a Michigan, and it goes on and on. But right now we're at total number of contacts. Now we've got 1,566, and we're what, midway through? Not even midway through Sunday yet, so got a ways.
Well, this is our main station here, and this is a backup station. Last year actually had a problem with that unit and ended up using the backup station for field day. So just like any emergency type situation, you try to have a backup and to cover yourself because things always can go wrong or whatever. The box in the back there is a series of filters so that it helps prevent my signal from interfering with the other people that are here, and vice versa. When they're transmitting, it provides more selectivity so that they don't interfere with me. The radio puts out 100 watts of power into the antenna outside, and we work all over the country and all over the world actually with this. And this station has primarily been our Morse code station. And we made an awful lot of contacts on Morse code. We get 2 points for every Morse code contact, 1 for every voice contact, and just talk to as many people as we possibly can during the event. This is supposed to be a simulated emergency test where we set up our equipment in the field using generators for power and stringing the antennas in the trees and so forth to simulate what would take place in an actual emergency. You would be deployed out into the field and help our served agencies with communications assistance if it's needed. So that's pretty much the routine on what we're trying to do. Example, you ever notice at night on the old AM radios, all of a sudden you can hear stations in Canada
From
and
Florida.
all over the place?
From Florida.
Yeah.
Every night you can hear Wheeling, West Virginia,
and
right,
yeah,
on the
here's
AM band,
right,
but you
here's
can't hear it now.
Here's an example of how that works. On the 20-meter ham band, that's a daytime band. You can talk all the way around the world. The sun goes down, that band kind of dies. Okay? And the lower frequencies, 40 and 80, which are dead during the day, they start coming alive.
Because they're being
right.
overwhelmed.
And as the night goes on,
It's the ionization of the atmosphere, is with the sun ionizing that atmosphere. When
in the daytime,
the frequency
you can bounce
can
signals
hit
off
it.
and at night goes straight through.
Yeah, the frequency can hit that ionized level and it'll go straight through it.
Right.
Okay,
Now-
and you get nowhere. But other times it'll hit and bounce. Now you got something. Okay.
Now at nighttime, and we've seen this here, as the sun goes down, the distance that you can talk to kind of shifts. So I talk to everybody I can in this area, then I change bands, and when I come back to this area, it has shifted and there's a whole bunch of new people that I can talk to because the skip has moved out and so forth. And if you're aware of that and where the distances are, you can pick the optimum frequency to talk to wherever you want.
Wow.
So that's one of the advantages that we have. But the
It's
point,
like everything, expertise is you
yeah,
gotta
yeah.
have it. You gotta know what you're doing.
but I'm delighted you had an opportunity to come here, because when I talked to you folks about field day and what it was, I sensed that you didn't know what the hell it meant, because you're putting up antennas and trees and everything else, and then actually operating in a very competitive arena to get the signal through, get the messages through.
Sure.
So it's a tremendous training.
Actually, part of the competition is actually we are. How do I put it? The competition part is actually created by the amateur radio. As I said before, those guys that say, at all costs, we're going to make points. But you've got to get through the noise of this guy's, this interfering signal.
Right.
Okay, just as Mike showed you. You got all these guys on the air, but you want to talk to this one person. Part of that training is how do you adjust your radio and your operating capabilities to filter out the noise.
I should say elected official visit gives us 100 points. How about that?
This is an example of a radiogram that is passed over the air, and during emergencies we would send health and welfare and so forth. This is a routine message. If it was an emergency, it would be a spelled out emergency, and emergencies are life and death situations. Next class is priority, which is a time value thing, and then health and welfare, and then general routine messages that go by. This particular message went to George Miller, who is the section manager for all of eastern Pennsylvania. And once again, it's an example of what we do here, because in an emergency you would be passing traffic.
Why do you think that is?
Because they can't keep. I got a knife.
That's not a knife. Hey, you got any paprika?
Yeah, and this trailer we're looking at now is the satellite ground station, in hopes that we can make a contact from one field day station, amateur radio, to another via satellite that's in Earth orbit.
All right, this is the one of the two digital stations here in the trailer I'm running on. 20 meters at the moment, which is the 14.0 megahertz band. I'm operating a digital program known as WSJT, which is a compressed form of digital data, much like the old modems from the 70s and 80s. It transmits digital data back and forth rather than voice data. I've completed so far on this radio in the last 24 hours. If I go under my statistics, on this radio we have done, let's see where we at here. Okay, I've done 123 digital contacts, and I have 12% of all the contacts. Bob has 399 on Morse code, and almost 40% of the club. So.
And on to this.
I see where the pulley is.
Coming up. No. It's movable. I can see it just pulling it side to side.
Now let's see, these are going to release, no, they're not going to release something because of that. Now, what's guiding it, again, side to side? Well, you're going to hear this thing start to creak. That's pretty good. Yeah. I just want to stop it.
Hold up, Hank.
People out there. Good, good. Now, do you want the step ladder over this way, or you want it there? All right. Yeah, I got one guy. That's what you got padded in there.
A few on. I should be headed home within the next 2 hours.
Hank.
The ones are yours.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you'll be happy. Have you explored around there?
Well, that's all we.
It won't go back down.
Can you pull that one out?
No,
Just
it's
hold
tightening
it.
it because you're on an angle, guys. Can you go
Just twist it one way or the other.
up? That's it. Then
Twist
drop
it
it
more.
down.
Twist it more.
Watch toes. Watch
Keep
the
going.
toes. Watch
Okay,
the
set it
toes.
down.
Watch
Set
the
it
toes.
down.
Now you can put the pin out, right?
Oops. Redo.
Oh no, it's the screws, the sheet metal screws.
That's it? That's all
That's
it's
it.
holding?
One that's 14 millimeters or something. No, no, no.
It's not metric, but a metric wrench.
Which is 50 ohms.
0 ohms in the center, and as you move from the center out to the end,
Right.
there is a point where it will be 50 ohms.
Okay.
And that's where you would bring your the center of your coax cable, your connectors here, and then there's a piece of metal that's insulated that will run out to a clamp that clamps it somewhere along the line, and there it'll grab it. When it grabs it at 50 ohms. Yes.
But that would go to only one side of